Disgusting.
Stan Van Gundy. Stan Van Gundy wearing a jersey with his hair hanging out. Like, how hilarious would that be?
Got the armpit hair, the 80s short shorts.
You got to love it. Oklahoma, Texas, they counted the cost. They joined the SEC. For us, we've got to count the cost and understand what it means to really follow Jesus and then to go all in and to love him more than anything else, even our own lives.
I am the starting power forward on Team Aunt. It is AUNT. I have said Aunt my entire life.
So you're on Aunt. So I'm
absolutely
on
Team Aunt.
No
so way.
Aunt. It's my aunt. Well,
you have to play both. You have to play both ways then, because if anytime you see a little creepy crawler, you have to call it an aunt. Oh, I got an aunt bite. You got to play both ways.
Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast live. I'm Bryce Johnson. So glad to be with you. If you're watching live on the video, that was a new open. Caught me off guard on a couple times there. Those are some funny clips. Good work by Luke on that. Music was questionable, I think. But glad to be here. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. I'm coming off my first fantasy football draft. Big weekend. So you see these two rings in front of me here in the studio. Those are from fantasy championships that I'm now beginning my 18th year with my high school friends. And so we've been playing a long time, had a big fun weekend, played golf and drafted for 8 hours. 8 hours we drafted. It was fantastic. And so glad to be here on this Monday as the Olympics continue, as NBA free agency begins tonight, and NFL training camps starting around the country. We have the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction ceremonies going on this weekend. We get a double dose because we missed last year. I'm a big Hall of Fame guy. I love listening to the speeches. A friend of mine, Donnie Shell, is going into the Hall of Fame, so I'm thrilled for him. Excited to hear his speech, and so it's a big week. And as you might know, if you listen to this show loyally, my wife and I are due any moment, any day. We got the phone on. So I was able to have a big fantasy weekend. I was still in Charlotte, and so thankfully made it through the weekend. And so we're ready for our daughter to get here. We're doing a couple weeks, but it's kind of we're feeling the any day moment. So let's say good morning to Luke. Great to have you here. Luke, how are you doing?
Bryce, it is a great morning. You are cracking me up with the music. During the intro, you texted me, or you chatted me and said, "This music, yikes, we getting down?"
Questionable music, my friend. Questionable music.
We were throwing together the new intro, and it was one of the audio clips from one of our TikToks and Instagram reels. So it's that new age groovy music. So
all right,
little
go.
shocker. This
there
weekend,
you threw me off. The whole show was I got off to an interesting start. I don't know.
We're testing your ability. Hey, this thing's live, baby. Come on now. Anything goes when it's live.
Let's go. Absolutely. So
I have watched so much Olympics, and this weekend was all Olympics. I'm almost to the point of I'm watching so much. I'm crossing over the threshold of I am feeling like I have to watch versus maybe I'm kind of tired of watching. I feel like I'm crossing that threshold because every day I sit down and it's, well, the Olympics are on. Yeah, I got to watch it. So I don't know. I'm trying
to watch it. What does that pull? So it's funny. So I was with all my buddies. We're all like 35 now. And so a lot of the guys are like, I'm more into the Olympics than I ever have been, but they feel like, man, what am I, an old man now? And it's interesting. Like, do you become more interested in the Olympics as you get older? I think is fascinating. I've kept up with it. What I love, so I always talk about on the show, with YouTube TV, the ability to watch things later and when I want, how I want. And so I've been watching all the swimming. Like, I just watched the actual race. I just click, oh, it's a 4-minute race. Boom, I've got it. And so I went through all the big races yesterday. and it was fantastic. So I watched a little handball. I wanted little Maddie to see some badminton, some table tennis, handball, and of course water polo is the best. I've talked about that. So I've been tasting it all. I'm liking it. It's been awesome.
Yeah. So I think my struggle here is I'm gonna steal your word shenanigans here. That certainly is owned by you, but dealing with the shenanigans of at night, I throw on NBC primetime. I already know what's happened for some of these events, and I kind of have to watch through things I already know what happened, or I've already seen clips, like you're saying. I've already seen the 4-minute clip because it happened 13 hours ago, and then I'm having to watch it again. But what I'm really enjoying is just going to NBCOlympics.com and just picking on specific live events and then just going all in on that instead of just the primetime coverage where they kind of jump around like they're playing hopscotch all night with things I already know what's happened. But dialing into the live events, for the golf, I stayed up till 2 a.m. watching the gold medal match. Now, I was exhausted the next day. I was debating. It was a mental civil war going on of, do I stay up 2 more hours to watch the 7-man bronze medal playoff? I ultimately decided on sleep. But I did stay up late for the gold medal.
Well, for me, the sports that I watch all the time, it's hard for me to get into during the Olympics. So, I mean, the basketball, of course, I love basketball. I'm intrigued by that, but I'm not going to stay up to watch it live. And same with golf. It's like, I'm glad USA won. That was cool. But to me, I didn't get into it. I just can't. I can't do it. So now with the swimming, like I said, I love watching the specific events, and especially the ones that are, I like the shorter events a little bit, even though for me, I was a distance freestyler when I swam, but to watch I used to do the 500 free, which was 20 laps for us. It's 10 for Olympians. Cause
shorter events are better though.
But it's fun. It's more intense. They're going as fast as they can, which let me start here. Cause here on the show, we do what we're convinced of. And so if you're joining us, what are you convinced of from the weekend? Any sport, any take that you have, what are you convinced of? And so since we're talking Olympics, let me start there. I'm convinced that what Caleb Dressel did to do the 50 free without taking a breath is fantastic. It's awesome. I can go 25 meters without taking a breath, but to go 50, man, the training for that, it's incredible. And so for him to get the Olympic record in that event, it was so exciting. And was thrilled to see that he was able to do that without taking a breath. But the other thing that I noticed, I don't think it was that event. I was watching another event of his. It seems like he's not even out of breath after the event.
Unbelievable.
So his training is unbelievable. He is at the top of his swim game, and almost doing it with ease is just remarkable. And then let me say this too. I was watching the 4x100 meter medley relay. And Caleb, I guess, did the butterfly in that one. I teared up a little bit. I don't know what it is about relay events, but I'm convinced it is the greatest event in swimming. During summer swimming growing up, it was always the free relay that ended the night. So the 15, 18-year-olds ended the night. And when I was in that age bracket, swimming the free, for sometimes with the meet on the line, and you're swimming with your buddies, and you've got maybe the second leg, the third leg, so they're relying on you. Or if you go fourth and you got to bring it home and you got to put together a comeback, it is the greatest feeling. And so to even watch a medley relay, it takes me back. It's so enjoyable because it's an individual sport. So when you see individual sports, then in a group setting, it's awesome. I love it. So there you go.
It's fascinating to see. There are certain things, there are a few things that are able to bypass and have success in different age brackets.
Yes.
And make its way through the generations. The generic relay race is one of those things. Every 8-year-old kid loves relay races.
Yes.
At recess, at 6th grade field day, all about the relay race. Being the anchor, you got to catch up. The adrenaline of watching a relay race. And now grown men, I don't know if I want to let myself into grown man status.
No, you're not.
Grown men like you and then almost grown men in the rookie season are enamored with the relay race. They're unbelievable. Even in track too. The track, the 4x1, the 4x4, unbelievable. I'm all in on this with you.
And it's always too like watching the guys when they're jumping off the blocks and the timing of touching the wall and going. The science of that and the timing of that, it's unbelievable. And then with the baton, of course, the handoff is always
and
crucial.
Caleb Dressel is also just a beast. Like when he won his first gold and he's tearing up on the podium, they're showing his family watching from home. Seems like an awesome guy. So that was cool.
So I don't have any tattoos. I'm not a tattoo guy. Jody, my wife, has like a little tattoo. She just had to get one little one. So all right, she's got it. She's a tattoo person now. But I'm not a tattoo guy. My dad always had a strict rule growing up. Nothing permanent. You could be a knucklehead, whatever. Nothing permanent. Whatever. I had the magnetic earrings at one point, but nothing permanent.
Like you actually wore those? Like
I wore them. I was probably like 13 maybe with the magnetic earrings.
And that was your style though. It wasn't a joke.
It was a joke. I mean,
okay.
I wasn't like rocking them to school. It was like in the summer.
Well, I had to clarify.
You go to the mall and you get them from Claire's or whatever.
Claire's. Talk about a store that's been around for a long time. Claire's will always be there.
They want to be funny, getting magnetic earrings. But I've never been a tattoo guy. But like I love hard rock music, and they all have sleeves and all that. But to see Caleb Dressel with the shoulder tattoo, it just adds another element.
The sleeve wrapped around the shoulder.
Because, growing up as a swimmer, we weren't necessarily the tough guys. We're the one, you wear a Speedo? Yeah, I wear a Speedo. Get out of here with that. But we're man enough to wear the Speedo, but we never got the credibility that the jocks, the football players got and all that. But to me, Caleb with the tattoo on the shoulder, it's like he's bringing a level of credibility and toughness to the pool. And I respect that, and I love that. So good for Caleb.
It's hilarious.
I want.
We didn't get the credibility, the shaved legs, the Speedo.
I never shaved my legs, by the way. I wouldn't.
What happened with the air? You got to have the aerodynamics. No. What are we doing here? You're fast enough.
If that's the difference between me winning and losing, I'd rather win by not shaving. I'm a winner without shaving. Thank you very much. You got a little, hair on the face from the weekend as well. So, not real eager to go.
Oh man. Well. I'm convinced is a completely different topic. And I teased this before the show for our super Knicks fan, Henry, here. And as we get into talking about free agency and the NBA draft, I was thinking, I'm starting to be convinced that the New York Knicks are not the free agent hotspot destination that we think they are. Because I've even said this every offseason when the Mavs are the biggest talkers in the world and never follow through. Oh yeah, we're gonna sign that. We're gonna get this big fish. Oh yeah, we're gonna throw some money at this guy. No, he's not. We all talk about, well, yeah, we're not to sign a free agent. You got to be the New Yorks, the LAs, and the Miamis of the world. I'm really starting to think that we need to subtract New York from that sentence. Because right now it seems like players want to go to Miami or they want to go to the West Coast. When is the last time the Knicks signed a big free agent outside of Julius? I don't know if Julius Randle counts as a big free agent because he was certainly well below. They definitely wanted Kyrie and KD that offseason, and they got Julius Randle, who ended up being awesome. I love Julius Randle. But when's the last time New York really signed a big fish? They failed in 2010 with the Miami, Chris Bosh, D. Wade. I'm just struggling to lump them into the LAs and Miamis of the world in free agent signings.
So Isaiah Thomas used to run that team, and at one point he signed, I think it was Stephon Marbury and Penny Hardaway to be their backcourt. And his line was, "It's so crazy that it just might work."
Oh, that cannot be a line.
That's what the Knicks have been. So we'll let Henry defend himself in a little bit. So stick around to hear from Henry. But let's jump in. We love starting things off with Unpack This. And so if you're just joining us right now, this is Unpacking It. We talk sports, faith, and life here on the show, and love having you a part of this, whether you listen live, whether you listen to the podcast. And before we jump in, let me ask you this. Do you need to get your own health insurance? Well, go to healthmarketgenius.com. Know your options. healthmarketgenius.com. Support them as they support us. And so last week was the NBA draft. And so I want to talk about that today as we dive into this, unpack this segment where we take a sports story related to the Bible, related to our own lives, and you can subscribe to the devotional, receive it in your email inbox by going to unpackingit.com. And I want to talk about how during the draft, the commissioner, Adam Silver, walks out and calls a player's name. And here, this player, they've been dreaming of this moment. They've worked hard in high school and probably before that, this lifelong dream of becoming an NBA player. They go to college oftentimes, some of them G League, some of them foreign players, and they're waiting to hear their name called during the NBA draft. And I've actually had my name called during the NBA draft. Did you know that, Luke?
I am hesitant to buy all into this take.
Yeah, so Bryce Johnson was drafted by the Clippers a few years ago.
Bryce with an I. Bryce with an I.
So I did hear my name called. But these guys, they get their name called. And the reality is, though, they become an NBA player as soon as their name is called. Like they're in. They're a part of the NBA family as a draftee. But that's not where the journey ends. This is just the beginning for these players, and it is now up to them to actually play like an NBA player and to demonstrate that they are an NBA player. So they no longer can, play like a college guy or from high school or whatever. It is time to live up to the standard that the NBA has, that what's required to be an NBA player, to represent the franchise that they've been called to and that they've been chosen to be on. And so now that's the journey that begins for all these NBA players. And for me, there's this great parallel to our own lives. And when we have been called as followers of Jesus, and when we recognize that God is who he says he is, and that he invites us to know him, he invites us to be a part of his family, and he calls us out of darkness into light. He calls us into his eternal family and claims us as his own. We now receive his grace, his forgiveness, salvation, eternal life, but we live that out as called. Like just like the NBA guys, they were called to be NBA players by the commissioner, and they get that phone call from the GM. And so for us, we're called as followers of Jesus and children of God to now live out that calling and to live as children of God and to be, we've been called to be set apart. And so these NBA players, they've been called to be NBA players and set apart, not just an average, basketball player anymore. These are NBA players now. And so once they've been drafted, you can't take that away from them. They will always be in the NBA family as a draftee. And for us, we are in God's family, so it's not earned. We didn't earn that. It's by grace alone because of what Jesus did on the cross. But what it says in 2 Timothy 1:9, it says, "For God saved us and called us to live a holy life." He did this not because we deserved it, but because that was his plan from before the beginning of time to show us his grace through Christ Jesus. And so we then look at Ephesians 4:1-6, where Paul writes, basically appealing to us to live a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called. That is, to live a life that exhibits godly character, moral courage, personal integrity, and mature behavior. A life that expresses gratitude to God for your salvation with all humility, forsaking self-righteousness and gentleness, maintaining self-control with patience, bearing with one another in unselfish love. And so, when God chose us and called us to be on his team, we had no experience as a disciple. But thankfully, his grace is abundant, and he empowers us and equips us through the Holy Spirit to become the person he calls us to be. So he has called us into the life of faith, into his family. And so now we live that out as followers of Jesus. And so we must willingly understand what it means to be his disciple, accept the new holy life we're stepping into, one that is worthy of the call. And so again, these NBA players, they don't stop at just being invited into that team and, okay, I'm great, I've arrived, my journey's over, I'm an NBA player. Well, no, now they go out and play like an NBA player. And so we live out in response, in humility, in gratitude to what God has done for us and what he's called us into, a life that is set apart. And so the question for us, do we represent that? Do we demonstrate that? And are we living out that calling as a true disciple that's living according to the ways of the Lord? And so you can unpack that. Luke, jump on in, and what would you like to add today?
Yeah, you wrote a recent devotional about this, which was super encouraging. And an important point that you made in it was also realizing the fact that when you become a Christian, you have no experience being a disciple. Just like these NBA players, they get drafted, no experience being an NBA player. There's so much pressure, especially these young 18, 19-year-olds, they get drafted. Oh, well, they need to be a 20-point-a-game guy. No, they have no experience. They're going to play in a league where everyone can play basketball. And when we become a Christian, we don't have experience being a disciple. So we have to receive and welcome God's grace to empower us.
That's right.
That's the whole point of being sanctified and growing in our faith. Yes, we want, when we begin following Jesus, we are entering into a lifetime of becoming more like him and being more sanctified by the Spirit, becoming more holy. But we also have to receive the grace that, one, we're always going to fail this side of heaven. We're never going to be perfect, which is why Christ giving us his righteousness through faith is even more incredible. But also, like, there's this tension of we don't have to be perfect. We want to be more holy. And then we have to receive the grace when we fail, because we realize, one, when you become, we're always going to fall short. And when you become a follower, you're inexperienced in following Christ. There is some growing pains. It takes time to walk away from old habits, old sins. Even now, even for quote unquote seasoned veterans of the Christian faith, there's always going to be some element of setbacks. There's never a point this side of heaven where we reach a point of we stop sinning. We're always going to sin. So we have to, I was really encouraged by in your devotional writing that we have to receive God's grace, especially when we begin following Jesus, because we're doing a 180. We're leaving a lifetime of not following Christ. And then he, like you said, he calls us in an instant. We're in God's family. It takes time to slowly start to live a life of following Christ.
And like these college kids that just, finished their time in college. I was going to say graduated. Not many of them graduated. Most of them are one and done, two and done. But they no longer can keep those same habits in college. Like some of those things that they got away with in college, even just because they were more athletic on the college game, they have to let go of some of that. So they're leaving their former teams behind, their former way of playing. They are now in the NBA and have to play like an NBA player. And so I wrote this in the devotional. Although chosen with no NBA experience and before showing they're truly NBA players, GMs and coaches have a plan to empower and equip them to become the players they're called to be on draft night. And so they see what they can be, the potential. And so God calls us to follow him, and he knows that we must depend on him to grow and develop. And like you're talking about, that spiritual maturity. And it does take time. And so we have to give each other patience and grace, but we always want to continue down the path of growth and recognizing, hey, for these college kids or these NBA players, that former life, that's over. We understand you're still having to let go of some of that, but that is the past. Now you're an NBA player. Here's what is expected and understood, and what you're capable of, because we're surrounding you with the coaches that are necessary and all the resources necessary to develop as an NBA player. And God's done the same for us. He's provided us with people that are veterans that can help us along in certain areas. And ultimately he's given us the Holy Spirit that does empower us when we yield to that spirit each day.
I just love this analogy. Like a GM drafts think of all these project players. Now there's so many project players. And these players, like you said, they've lived their whole lives dominating by athleticism and just being bigger, faster, stronger. And these NBA teams see, okay, we could really mold this guy into a good league player. So they draft you. They draft you, and you say, hey, here's the new way of life. Here's what's expected, and here's the tools to get there. The same thing. You begin following Jesus. You enter into a family of believers, into the local church. Hey, here is how we followed Christ. And then, golly, I'm clearing my throat left and right this morning. And then we have God's word.
For a day with some honey.
That's right. We have God's word that also, hey, here is here's what it means to follow Christ. Here's who Christ is. Here's what to believe. Here's tools. We have tools, and then the Holy Spirit as well also empowers us. So it's the same thing. God calls us to holiness, and then he gives us the tools to become more holy.
That's right. Amen. Let's end it right there. You can unpack that. You can read that devotional on unpackingit.com. That was the one I wrote for Friday following the NBA draft. We'll have a new one that comes out this afternoon, so you can subscribe for free on unpackingit.com. While I'm promoting, before we jump into some other topics, we got to talk NFL. We've got NBA free agency tonight. So much going on. I did want to encourage you to check out Fantasy Football Fellowship. And so we've written the Fantasy Football Fellowship playbook that you can order on Amazon or go to fantasyfootballfellowship.com. It's designed to use within your fantasy league, within your church. You can start fantasy leagues at your church. We've got churches doing this in different parts of the country, and so really excited about it. You can also join one of our 4 leagues that we're doing here at Unpacking It. So if you're a listener and you love fantasy football, come play with us. You can come and beat Luke and try to beat me. I did not win last year's league, actually. So Scott was able to do that. But we're going to have some fun this year and would love for you to join. So you can check that out, fantasyfootballfellowship.com, and would love for you to participate in one way or another. All right. Let's do a little NFL, then we'll go back to the NBA and let us know what you're convinced of today. Any takes that you have. So I'm in on the NFL now that I've had my first fantasy draft of the year, and going into this season, one of my most excited aspects to the season was Carson Wentz getting another chance at just kind of redeeming his sports career with an opportunity to reunite with Frank Reich in Indy, and he's already injured. We're waiting to hear if you listen to this podcast later, the news may already break as far as what he's going to decide to do with surgery or how long he's going to be out. But I'm just so bummed by this. Even if all he misses is kind of training camp, I'm bummed by that because I had really high hopes for the Colts, high hopes for him. I still think this Colts team is really talented either way. I'm so intrigued by even the thought or possibility of Nick Foles being traded to the Colts.
Can you imagine?
I mean, it's just even the thought of it is just outrageous. I don't think it'll happen, but it's like it actually makes the most sense when you look across the league. The Bears don't need Foles at all. They've got Dalton and Fields, so they're all set. And I don't know how many other quarterbacks are really available or that you'd want to trade for. Maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I don't think Washington would get rid of him unless they like Taylor Heineke. So I don't know.
Foles has shown that he can win with a really talented roster.
Yeah,
because you're right. The Colts
Wentz is out for the year.
Yeah, but the Colts overall are one of those rosters where, as a quarterback, man, I'd love to play for that roster.
I know.
I mean, talk about some weapons. You got a good defense, good coach.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's disappointing with Carson Wentz. You of course root for him. We've seen how high his ceiling can be.
Yeah.
But then with a guy who's injury prone, the thing that happens is they just get injured. And it stinks, and injuries just make that floor so low. But with a guy who's shown that he can be so good, MVP caliber player, and especially a good guy as well, you root for him to just stay healthy. We really want to see sustained excellence, especially in such an awesome situation in Indy.
I know. Goodness. And then on the flip side, the guy that we're trying to figure out, wait, can we root for him or not, which is Aaron Rodgers.
Oh.
And so last week, it was, of course, the big story. So we're a little late to the party on this topic. But, of course, we've been following it all off season, wondering what was going to happen to him. But my big question is from a fan's perspective, because here at Unpacking It, we're all about the fans. Packers fans, this is such a unique situation. Like I was reading an article on ESPN, they've got one just talking about local establishments and local businesses and all that. Like how they're turned off by the way everything went down with Aaron Rodgers, and they also recognize, hey, this guy's as good as it gets in the NFL, MVP. He gives us the best chance to win a Super Bowl. Come back and win for us, but we're not so sure that we're all in proud to wear our jersey anymore. But then during the press conference last week, I kind of softened on him a little bit. I was like, all right, I appreciate the honesty. It wasn't all kind of bizarre, out there, beautiful mystery type thing. Yeah. It was actually like some hard honesty, truth, telling it like it is type of thing, which I appreciated. And I still love watching Aaron Rodgers as much as any quarterback in the league.
And I think that, that's one of the objective truths of the NFL is you can't be an NFL fan and not love watching Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I mean, one of the greatest arm talents, passers the league has ever seen. Even as he has just shattered the hearts of me and other Cowboys fans, it's just still like that's just amazing football to watch. And I've said this before. If you're so loyal to your team, you can't appreciate really good talent, even from your rival. I feel like you miss out on the beauty of sports. Because if as a Cowboys fan, again, multiple playoffs, we've come into the Packers and just lost in heartbreaking, gut-wrenching fashion. And I leave that game thinking, gosh, I hate the Packers. Gosh, I hate Aaron Rodgers. Then I have to come to my senses and be like, okay, wow. Take my Cowboys hat off for a second. That was so impressive to watch from Aaron Rodgers. And that makes sports even more fun because watching as a fan, what we want in sports is greatness. We want to watch things that we can't do. That's hard to comprehend. And Aaron Rodgers has given us numerous moments of that.
No question. And speaking of that take of appreciating rivals, the name that popped into my mind as a Panthers fan, Michael Vick and Drew Brees, two guys that were just hard for me to root for, but they were two of the best. And now for Michael Vick, of course, his story went another direction. But when he was in his heyday, I mean, it was electric. But he was dominating the Panthers. We could never stop him. So it was always hard to watch. And then same thing with kind of Drew Brees over the years too. So. That's a good take. I like that one. So we don't always appreciate it, but I don't know how you do it. I don't know how because if your fandom is so deep, it's hard to do.
That's a good point though about Packers fans. I don't know any Packers fans that I'm like buddies with that I talk to, but what's the temperature? Because I'm trying to think if Dak, probably Dak's not a great comparison. If Romo tried to pull off what he did, a long-time Cowboys quarterback, leader of the team, did what he did, would I second guess throwing on the number 9 to a game? Maybe I think I'll go with Witten jersey all season. I don't know. Maybe it'd be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, we experienced this in Carolina with Cam Newton and just sort of his, like what happened in the Super Bowl where he didn't dive on that football. His unfortunate kind of press conference was frustrated, somewhat understandable, but there was some heat from that. And then some of his outfits starting to be a little outrageous toward the end of his time in Carolina. So people were starting to get a little tired of him, even though he's the best quarterback that's ever played in Carolina. And I do think that many Panthers fans are even still rooting for him in New England because there was an appreciation for what he did for Carolina. And, MVP, Super Bowl, it was an awesome experience. But there were a few things that rubbed people the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yet you still have that, that loyalty to the Panthers and what we've seen from him. So
the psychology of the sports fan is so interesting. And I love discussing it because, I mean, we can have a very short memory if a player wins for us.
Oh yeah.
Like we're very quick to forgive, no matter what a player does. Oh, they want to win for our team? Go right ahead. I'll cheer for you all day. But if they go to a rival, like all the LeBron Cleveland fans
Oh, I
before he
know.
returned to Cleveland, burning jerseys, which was outrageous. How could you burn a Cleveland LeBron jersey? I mean, you don't even have to wear it. Maybe choose not to wear the jersey, but to get rid of an iconic jersey? What are we doing here? Come on. I'm thinking of all the jerseys that I have or that I wish that I had. Oh my gosh, if I got my hands on a vintage LeBron Cleveland jersey, I'm not even that much of I'm not a Cleveland fan, but I'm hanging that up in the closet. I'm not burning it. So it's just so interesting about sports fans. It's very quick to forgive if they win for us. But there's only a few things that they could do for us to hate them, and it seems like if they leave for a rival, but
that's
I don't
number
know.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's number one. So yeah, I think Packers fans are trying to convince themselves. All right, I'm still in on Aaron Rodgers. One last season, and anything can happen. That's the great part about sports is things change so fast. And next offseason, forget about it. Like even just think about Chris Paul going into this season with Phoenix. Who would have thought that Phoenix would go to the finals and that Phoenix would we can't lose Chris Paul. Like it was like Chris Paul's career is over, forget about it. So with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers this season, I think if they start clicking, rolling, I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes his career in Green Bay.
Oh, definitely. And
the idea that was the whole thing for me.
This offseason will be completely forgotten if they have a really good season. If they win the Super Bowl this year, they will never hear of this offseason ever again.
No,
from
exactly.
a Packers fan.
All right, so let me ask this question, and we'll throw it out to the fans as well. So as training camp begins, who is your Super Bowl favorite? Who are you buying into? And outside of Tampa and Kansas City, so we all kind of agree they're the teams to beat. They're probably the most likely to get back as of today. Outside of those two, who are you all in on? And you know who I am in on? The LA Rams. I'm buying Stafford in LA. I was watching some NFL Network coverage yesterday. I think they've got it. I think with Sean McVay, with Stafford, with Aaron Donald, even though they lost Cam Akers, which was a huge blow, I think the passing game will carry them. And they may even lose like a couple games early. It might take a little while to get things going, just like it happened last year in Tampa Bay. Once, Bruce Arians and Tom Brady got on the same page, they never looked back. I see something similar happening in LA with the Rams. So that's the team at this point I'm buying. What about for you?
So the team, I'll say this again. The team 3 years from now I'm buying is the Chargers. Love where they're going. The team now, I'm looking at the CBS odds to win. I cannot believe that Tennessee's middle of the road. Tennessee's middle of the pack on Super Bowl odds plus 3,000. That seems egregious. They've got to be. It feels like we'll probably get another Ravens versus Titans playoff game, which would be awesome. I mean, not complaining against that, but if they meet the winner of that game to the Super Bowl, I don't know.
Yeah,
I really like the Titans. If Tannehill stays healthy, that dude's just a gamer. He's not the most talented quarterback, but he's such a gamer and he's so tough. He's one of those guys that it may not look pretty, but the dude can find a way to win a ball game.
So he is my fantasy football quarterback. I actually reached to get him. I'm that sold on Tannehill. I think he's great. So. I'm with you on the Titans, and I think the Bills are a tad overrated. I think they'll be the team that comes in a little overrated and underachieved.
I'm not sold on Josh Allen.
No, me neither. I got to see it. I got to see him do it another year.
I feel like he hit a ceiling. I don't want to be pessimistic. Like, hey, if he wants to do amazing, all for it. I'm not sold that he can get that much better. I don't know. I mean, he had some significant improvement, but he was
awesome. He was great.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, very good. I'm not convinced that his ceiling is that much higher.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's fair. I think so. We got to see. I think it's always important to see it again. We saw Lamar Jackson had an awesome MVP season, took a little bit of a step back. So Josh Allen, a similar situation. Can he take a step forward, keep it going?
Yeah.
So those are just a few thoughts on the NFL. We'll be talking a ton of NFL as the season gets going and preseason, which 3 games this year, which is interesting. I think people forget we didn't have preseason last year. I'm not sure anybody missed it, but
no one missed it. Gosh,
well,
it's so disappointing. You tune in, you get 3 possessions of your favorite guy, and then, I mean, if you have some, especially if you have a personal connection to a player that's fighting for a roster spot, that's cool. And if you're just an absolute NFL junkie that just wants to look at routes being run, okay, what's their defensive scheme they're going with, but you want to watch third stringers, go for it. Not me.
So I'm not an anti preseason guy. I embrace
They have value. They have
for
value
what
for
it
the game.
is. And do I sit there and watch them all? No, but I realized today that the Hall of Fame game is this Thursday, and I was like,
what? Wow.
Thursday night. I now have a game to watch. I'm excited.
Start warming that recliner up. Get the man cave ready.
You better believe it. Turn on the air conditioner. Let's go. Get the fan blowing. I'll be down in the man cave watching.
Has the man cave been vacant since football season? Has it been a sauna? AC's off, just waiting till NFL starts again?
That's right. Actually, my buddy from fantasy stayed there this weekend, so that was good. But no, we've had the Olympics on. Maddie and I were watching the Olympics down there yesterday, so that was nice. Been watching some movies this summer, so yeah, we're keeping the man cave fresh. But yeah, I'm ready for the NFL to return. Let's go. So the other thing that I think is fascinating, this time of year, normally it's all right. We're thinking training camp and we're inching our way into the season. Now we throw in the NBA draft was last week. The Charlotte Hornets had as good of a draft as anybody, which I was
very impressed.
Very impressed. And now NBA free agency, which normally is over 4th of July. We get it at the end of, now it's start of August, which, wow, that snuck up on me. And so now we get free agency. The big trade, Russell Westbrook to the Lakers. As much of a Hornets fan as I am, I'm also a Lakers fan. You can see the Kobe Bryant jersey in my studio here. But I am very intrigued by this trade. I have gone back and forth on my thoughts about Russell Westbrook throughout his career because I appreciate how hard he plays. I'm a fan of the triple-double. I love the triple-double. I wonder why Westbrook has been such a tough teammate over the years or why there hasn't maybe been more success. But I think part of that has been the right fit. And then I think it's hard to play with Kevin Durant. And so that was his best chance at winning. And they did win. They won a good bit. I think those two together was the chemistry just wasn't there ultimately. And so I think him getting a chance to play with Anthony Davis and LeBron, I do think that they can complement each other. Now, they have to sacrifice their game a little bit, but we've seen this. We saw LeBron and D Wade sacrifice a little bit to make it work. And I find that this could be a similar situation, especially for Westbrook, where he has to understand, hey, you've hit the MVP, whatever, that's great. The stats, win a championship. And you'll be cemented as an elite all-timer. I really believe that. And so yield to LeBron James. He made it work with Kyrie Irving, which to me would be the hardest of any player to make it work. I think he can do it with Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
And the biggest, overriding storyline, which is absolutely true, it allows LeBron to coast during the regular season, where he doesn't have to get up every single game and carry the offense and the defense. Westbrook can carry the offense on certain games. Anthony Davis can still carry the defense, which he needs to do, and he needs to stay healthy. But Westbrook rarely is injured. He plays hard every single possession. Not every night, every single possession. LeBron will love that. The Lakers will love that. And so I think they have the possibility of winning a ship with Westbrook. I really do.
I agree with you 100,000,000%.
Wow. All right.
So with the caveat. So I agree. Adding a player like Westbrook, ginormous for an aging LeBron and an injury-riddled Anthony Davis, because Westbrook actually is a robot. The dude is a machine. His energy level, his sustained energy level throughout a game is actually unbelievable. So LeBron and AD get to add a player like that, a dude that's going to lead transition. He's going to clean up the glass. He's going to fill the stat sheet. Yeah, I agree with you completely. LeBron and AD get to have in theory, a smoother. They get to expend less energy throughout the regular season because you can defer to a workhorse like Russell Westbrook. The caveat is they are in desperation of signing shooters.
Yeah.
You have to fill up the roster with just automatic perimeter shooters because Kuzma could hit shots. Caldwell Pope was a key shooter for the Lakers. I'm not worried about losing Montrez. I mean, you probably need to. You definitely need. I mean, when the Lakers lost Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, that was a big loss because then Anthony Davis is having to bang around more in the post. But Lakers, fill out the roster with shooters. Get one rim running big. I like the roster. Now, we do need to bring up this from a fan's perspective. The NBA is completely outside of if you're into European soccer, but in regards to American-based sports, the NBA is completely alone that it can be totally successful as a transactional league. And you brought this point up 2 summers ago. You were like, dude, the NBA is a transactional league. I'm like, you know what? That's completely right. Because think of how many fans tune in for more than 40 NBA games. Probably not that many. But think of how many fans are up to date on all the NBA draft stuff, the trades, the free agent signings,
and actual salaries.
And
like we don't really know how much NFL players make because it's like bonuses and
exactly. It's the NBA is so fun to watch. All of the off the court contract trades, all of that stuff. That alone is fun to watch. Outside of watching any basketball player movement, you don't get that in the NFL. Not even close. You don't get it in the NFL. The NBA is so entertaining in player movement. So when you brought that up 2 years ago, we need to bring that up now. Every time we enter free agency for NBA, because it's basically a league of its own.
It is.
That people follow, exclusive of watching games sometimes.
Yeah, like I love listening to the conversations about free agency. Like I was watching NBA TV this morning. Like I love it. And I can't
incredible.
Like the countdown for 9:00 tonight. I love it.
And the trade deadline every season, talking about
best.
Who's going to get bought out, what trades is a championship contender going to make, the draft night trades. It's unbelievable.
And I'm fine with like deals not happening. I love the speculation. Like I'm in on the speculation.
Definitely.
So, even if they fall through, it's just the thought of it, the idea of it, how do they fit? So I'm getting lunch with my NBA friend today. So one of my buddies who loves the NBA.
It's going to be a lunch of just speculation. 30 minutes of speculation.
That's it. Yeah, we're in a dynasty NBA fantasy league together. That's how diehard we are. So it'll be fun. All right, let's bring on Henry and do tap drill. Tap around some of the stories in and out of sports and some of the goofy, fun, interesting, unique stories. Let's go to Henry. Hello, Henry. Good morning. How are you, man?
What's going on, boys? How we doing today?
Doing awesome, man. Well, first off, your Knicks, are they truly a free agent destination? Make your case.
All right, so you see, now me and Luke are about to go hard in the paint right now. So I'm gonna take the pass from Bryce, and me and Luke are about to go head up right now. Now, in answer to your take, Mr. Heaton, I'm not even going to say that. I'm going to refer to Stephen A. Smith, who just said on Sirius XM NBA radio at a particular free agent or a pending free agent named Damian Lillard, who has gone on the record, according to Stephen A. Smith, and said, I'm not keen on being traded, but if I'm going to be traded, I would want to be traded to Madison Square Garden.
Let's go.
How about that?
I'm in on that.
So, hey, I want the Knicks to be good, to be fair. When the Garden is hopping, now I haven't seen it that much in my lifetime. And that's not a dig because I haven't seen a lot of Dallas sports franchises hopping consistently in my lifetime. But I want to see the Garden because it's iconic.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm shocked that the Knicks haven't been able to sign as many big fish as in theory they could because of the Garden. Now, if Lillard is traded to New York, amazing. And part of that is just because you have to have you have to have a solid team. That's why the Nets are able to sign all their big guys because they had a really good young team that these players could go in and just dominate with.
You're right.
But the Knicks didn't have that. But if the Knicks want to be good and they become good, I am all for it. The Knicks in the playoffs this year, unbelievable.
It's fun. They've got the pieces now. They've got the pieces. So I think they'll draw some talent for sure. So
to a player, you've always heard the saying, the NBA is better when the Knicks are good. If you actually saw any of the playoff games against the Atlanta Hawks, the place was rocking.
Oh my gosh.
Who wouldn't want to be in that spotlight in the world's most famous arena with Game 7 on the line with Damian Lillard having the ball in his hands with 3 seconds left on the clock?
Damian Lillard doing Dame time
in New York
would be a million times more entertaining in the Garden than in Portland.
I'm all in.
My God, you will not hear the end of me if that should happen.
Ooh.
But we're gonna move on to football. And Bryce, you mentioned that you did your fantasy draft this weekend, and so I wanted to give you a little bit of statistics as far as mock drafts have been going on, and the top five players in mock drafts so far in order are Christian McCaffrey, your guy, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, and Luke's guy, Ezekiel Elliott. So, did you draft any of these guys in your first-round mock draft, or your first-round draft, not mock draft?
Yeah, my first draft of the year. So I was 7th. I took Austin Eckler. But I am out on Zeke personally because he cost me dearly last year. He was my first-round pick last year. So once a guy burns me that bad, because he still played. Like George Kittle got injured last year, I went back to the well this season. But when you're Zeke and you cost me last year, I'm out on him. And then I'm concerned about the Saints this year. It's just a transition year. So I don't know what's going on. So to take Alvin Kamara that early would make me nervous this season. So there's a little fantasy insight. But check out our Fantasy Football Fellowship podcast. It's a separate podcast in Apple Podcasts. We'll talk. We go all in on fantasy. So nice little plug there.
Bryce, I do want to ask you, what was the temperature of the room at the fantasy draft? Are you guys chirping each other? We taking digs? Is it pretty polite? Does it get real heated?
Oh my goodness. Polite would not be a word used. During a fantasy draft, definitely not. I will say this. We've been friends for 20 years now. And because, we weren't together, only 6 or 7 of us were together last year for last year's draft. So to have 13 guys together, we all have young kids. We're family men, all in. To get together with your buddies, everybody felt very thankful to be together. Like that was the tone of the day. It was, we get a breather. We get a breather. No responsibilities. Let's just hang, do a fantasy draft, catch up, and be together again. So that was the overall tone in between. I can't believe you drafted that running back type of stuff. So.
Now, here's a question that we have to ask, being that you had a live in-person mock draft. What was on the menu for the draft?
Ooh. Great question. So the host of the day, we were at his house. Sadly, he had to kick his wife out and kick his daughter out, and we took over. 13 guys took over their house, which is a nightmare. Poor Liz. She's a saint for allowing us to do that. But the host, he made steak for breakfast, waffle maker, eggs, the best sausage I've ever had. There was actual fruit though. And I was walking by one time. I heard one of the guys go, "Ooh, I love this fruit spread." And I go, "Wait a second, where am I?" Finally leave. It He was beside himself on the great fruit spread. A fruit spread? Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I had some watermelon and some strawberries and pineapple, which was.
But you're not vocally saying the phrase fruit spread.
Quietly get your fruit and go sit down and get ready to draft. I was talking about the sausage and
the steak. Man, the steak is killer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ooh, great fruit spread.
All right. We're gonna have to have a Bible study with that guy. All right, boys, we got time for one more tap here. Let's go back to the Olympics, and I don't know if you saw, but the Olympic high jump had a very interesting ending. We had Qatar's Mutaz Essa Barshim and Italy's Gianmarco Tamberi. And so now they were tied at the same height at the end of the competition. And if you saw the highlight, they're both talking to, I guess, the official, the judge, and great work by the camera guy and whoever's doing the sound there. And so you could hear the two guys talking to each other and basically saying, hey, you want gold medals? And the other guy's like, hey, let's be gold medal champions. And they both wound up being co-gold medalists for the high jump. Now, the guy from Qatar was playing it cool, was jumping, was seen doing the fist pump, your favorite fist pump. But the Italian guy, he went super extra. Oh my God, he's on the floor, he's screaming, he's yelling that he just won the gold medal. Now, I don't know if you guys saw it, but if you did see it, did the Italian guy really do too much with the gold medal celebration?
Okay, so I've got to get this off my chest here because I don't have a problem with them sharing gold. They were clearly the two best jumpers. They both missed their three attempts at the height they both failed at. Clearly the best two jumpers. Impressive. They want to share gold? Great. I never want to be the stuck-up snobby guy that tells someone how you can or can't celebrate. Or I don't want to legislate behavior. But, I mean, this was borderline absurd. He looked like he was doing a stop, drop, and roll, like, fire drill. Like, what are we doing? Like, give me the fist bump, be audible, but to roll around, to get up, to find another piece of property, to then roll around again? I don't know. The guy from Qatar ran to the stands, celebrating with. It was weird. I've never seen a celebration like that in my life.
All right, let me step back here. We're just accepting that two guys are going to share the gold medal.
It's official.
What?
It's official.
What are we talking about here? There is one gold medal. Who wins? Now, if it's the team, of course, everybody wins on a team. But this is an individual sport. You don't share a gold medal. You don't each get one. Are you kidding me? These fantasy rings right here were not shared with anyone. I won, and whoever finished second, they finished second. Now, if you've got to continue to do the high jump all afternoon until one of them loses, then you figure it out. Now, I didn't watch the event, but I am a strict no tie. There's no ties. I don't want to wear a tie. I don't want to experience a tie. No ties. I'm out. I'm out on everything with ties. Okay? Ridiculous.
Oh, God.
Oh,
and
Luke,
right there is Bryce Johnson's mic drop on Tap Drill.
I don't want to wear a tie.
Whether you win the gold or it's nothing.
That's it. One person wins the gold. Now, yeah. So there you go. There's nothing else to say. I don't want to see ties in the NFL. I don't want to see ties in soccer. I'm out. Figure it out. Keep playing until someone wins. That's what you did when you played in the backyard, right? Nobody went home. Hey, we'll just tie. No.
Yeah, you played until there was a winner.
You got to win by 2, and then we'll go home. Hey, it's time for dinner. I've got to win by 2. We keep tying. Well, someone eventually gets too tired, and you win. So that's what I would say. Sharing gold.
And we're going to drop the mic on Tap Drill just like that.
All right. Very cool. Well, thanks, Henry. Great job, Luke. Appreciate it. I don't think we have time for me to get into my my valet take, but we'll save that for another time. I'll give that
to have a valet take means that you are routinely getting valet service.
No, this was a rare valet experience, and
Bryce Johnson from Unpacking It is here for a 6 o'clock.
No, I did not use the valet. I did not use the valet.
Okay.
I passed on the valet.
Little valet service at your local steak place.
Yes.
Little Tuesday night date night.
We'll save that for earlier in a podcast in an upcoming week. How about that? But great job. Thanks for everybody listening. Thanks for everybody leaving comments on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, wherever you're listening. And thanks to all of you that listen to the podcast later. Always love hearing from you. If you want to email me, Bryce@unpackingit.com. Today's Unpack This topic. We talked about NBA players living up to being called by Adam Silver as an NBA player, and we're called by God to live for him, to experience his goodness, his grace, and to live a life that's set apart, a holy life as we seek after him. And thankfully, the Holy Spirit empowers us and allows us to do that. And so let's yield to him and live our lives for Jesus today as we step out and become ambassadors for Jesus. Let our light shine for others to see that there is hope, there is an answer, and it's Jesus. And so thank you for being a part of Unpacking It. Thanks for all of our supporters and for our listeners. I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. I'll be here Monday if we don't have a baby. If we do have a baby, I will be with my family. We'll talk soon. Either way, thanks so much. Have a great one.